So, hi, good afternoon, everyone. It is great to see you, and a real delight to be welcoming Elizabeth Murphy and Maria Sedmak to run their session, which is being titled "Type is Your Preferred Way, Not Your Only Way." And just by way of introduction, Elizabeth is a writer, psychologist, researcher, and trainer in type constructs. She presents to teachers, families, and teens regarding ways to implement type awareness and use in their common settings. And we have Maria here as well. And Maria is a theologian, mother of three, life counselor based on V. Frankl's logotherapy, Austrian citizen, living in the US, currently working as an artist, interpreting visually fairy tales, biblical stories, dreams, and Jungian type theory, focus on overcoming one-sidedness. So it is a complete pleasure to have you, Elizabeth and Maria. Thank you, and I'll hand over to you now.
Thank you very much. So we work together on trying to make clear your preferred way and is not your only way. And we're doing it through two art mediums, one through literature and one through art. So Maria is our artist who will share her visuals, and I have some stories, and I'll share three of the stories that we will have, and then you can react. We had a good time doing this, so we hope you enjoy it too. Let's see. Why isn't that going? Okay. So our goal is to introduce some original works of arts that reflect the diversity, to have some original stories for children. And really it's for ages 7 to 15, 16, to keep our audience, the reader, the visual person, aware that energy with type varies according to the preferences, and to develop some working tools for understanding who we are through our type preferences. So we're going to start out first with a concept that many people miss when they're first introduced to descriptors of type. And they look at descriptors as behaviors and habits when it's really about energy. So Maria is going to take us through the energy of type. Maria?
Yes, so you see here my first painting, and in this painting, it's oil pastel on paper, and it shows the four functions, and they are painted like tornadoes that should express that the energy of the function, so the psychic energy is always moving, is always in action. And these four functions, you see the dominant, the secondary, the tertiary, and the inferior function here. And each of the tornadoes has the extroverted and the introverted energy around it. That is not specifically shown here. But what I also tried to show is that all four functions, they are on very different in size, so they are not developed at the same level. And they are always active, and the light on top is the level of consciousness. So the light is showing, so the dominant function is on the highest level of consciousness, and the inferior function here, the way I painted it, is still unconscious. So what does that mean? It means even though the inferior function is not conscious, it is active and is influencing our behavior. The energy is always is active in a way we cannot control it. And this is what Jung really was very explicit about, that it is our life task to develop our functions. And how do we develop our functions? We use them. And by using them, we can bring them to consciousness. And the higher up we have all four of them, the better we can deal with them, and the more we can control the more energy we have available on the one hand, and the better we can control what the specific function can do.
Yeah.
So this is the basic information. Elizabeth, do you want to add something?
No, you're good. I will take you to the next one then. Let's see.
No, just one more thing. The color choice. Can you go back one more?
Mm-hmm.
So the color choice was very important for me to paint the unconscious, not black, but choose this kind of blue that makes it not dangerous, but just because we don't know it, it's not a value thing. It's just something we have no access to.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. So we're going to look then at the EI. And so go ahead, Maria, if you want to take it, because we'll do your visual first.
Yeah, so then it's be better just to skip this and go to the painting right away.
Okay.
So let's see. Now, this is an abstract geometric art painting. Sorry, the quality is not really good. And the original piece is 40 inches high and 32 inches wide. So it's a very different experience if you stand in front of the painting. So what did I want to show here? This is my extroverted introverted painting, and you see the circle and the orange, the orange color around the circle that would capture myself, my psyche, my personal self, and what's outside of this is the outer world. And you see there's also a center. The center is the self, and each color are used in the whole process of painting with these icons. I always had the same color also represented in the middle to visualize that this is everything, all our being comes from this inner core we are, from ourself, from our soul, and gets reconnected to it. What I want to show here is we all have an extroverted and an introverted side. We cannot use them both at the same time, but we use them both. And it's important to see that we deal with the same topics in our psyche and outside of ourselves. It is not that the contents change, but the way we deal with the contents change. So if a person, and so the yellow color I chose is like a flashlight that shines on the inner or the outer, and I tried to, and I made it alternate. So sometimes we are in our inner world dealing with the contents of different kinds. For example, if a more introverted person wants to protect the environment, for example, look at the water, the sea, look at the water icon. Maybe the introverted person just wants to ponder over it and think about what can I personally do to change the situation. And then at another moment, he or she likes to interact with another person to change something. But if I'm an extroverted person and want to change the environment, maybe I go to I join a group that is actively doing projects on the environment. So this is what I wanted to make clear here, that we have both sides, and depending on where we draw more energy from, this is where our dominant side is. It's very important to know what we get more energy from, but to also be aware that we have the other side as well, and we should attend to the other side to grow. to get that energy also available.
Thank you. So we're going to balance where we go from the visual to the story, and you will get a PDF of the slides sent to you at the end of the session. The story, there's 10 stories actually. And in the stories, we're going to use the story as a way of introducing type differences and an appreciation for those differences and an understanding of them. And so the children can read the stories and get the concept of different and equal without necessarily being first taught all about type. Now, in the stories, the illustrations are really going to focus on anything about the illustration that will not tell you what the race or gender is of the child. So shoes. Every culture has shoes. So this shoe might be, Australian, or it might be American, or it might be Canadian. It doesn't matter. But by taking it away from making inclusivity to be, we have one of every gender and one of every race and one of every culture. Instead, we're going with, no, let's just make it something that's neutral. And therefore, we're able to deal with it. So the first story is about some children in a classroom in school. Okay. And so I'm going to read it to you, and I hope that will be okay for you. It's dealing with the extroversion introversion difference. And my vision is that these stories, the 10 of them, will be in a booklet that you could just read the stories, but then a second part of the booklet would be the theory described in language that's appropriate for children. Okay, here we go. Hi, my name is Sam, not Samuel, not Sam followed by 5 other first names, just Sam. My mom always had trouble spelling correctly, so she gave me a name easy to spell and easy to write. I like that. My best friend is Peregrine. His mom and dad probably had a good reason for picking that name, but we are working hard to give him a good nickname. To call him P doesn't seem like a good idea, and Perry can be read too many ways. It's a challenge for his friends. We all belong to a group of kids called the T3 Squad. We're all terrific, top-notch, and together. There are 8 in our group, but 4 of us are really best friends. Our squad got together 2 years ago after I moved to this school. I hated moving, and we did it a lot because of my mom's job or my dad's job. Bosses must think it's easy to move around because so much of the job can be done electronically, but it is murder on the kids who always have to enroll in a new school. I know I'm fun and I'm smart, but when I first meet a group, I hold back. I like to watch and listen before I start interacting. Because of this, I have sometimes been accused of being shy, cold and mean, and stupid. Oh, no teacher actually used the word stupid, but you knew that is what they thought. They would ask a question, and without giving you enough time to think, they would move on to another person to answer. I should be used to it by now, but it still gets to me. If the teacher asks a question that I already know the answer to, well, I can answer right away. But when I have to think of the idea or the connection or the meaning, I like to think it through thoroughly instead of spitting out the first thought that comes to my mind. I like giving my final thought, not my first thought when I speak. Just because I do not raise my hand does not mean I am not listening or I do not understand. Sometimes when I am quietest, I am doing my best thinking, but no one can tell. They say that's how an introvert does things, so I guess in these ways I am like other introverts. When I moved into this school, the year had already started, so everyone already belonged to a group. That makes finding a friend even harder. I have 42 friends now, but the beginning was hard. Yet on the 3rd day, when I was feeling really lonely, Peregrine asked me to sit with him at lunch. Peregrine is not at all like me. He is full of energy and always laughing on the outside. I laugh on the inside a lot, and getting into things. It is like the world is his to explore and investigate. He seems to investigate a lot with his hands and with getting involved. He doesn't like to watch first like me. That means he jumps in too soon sometimes and makes mistakes or gets in trouble for touching things before the teacher said to begin. He said whatever comes into his head and then changes his mind a lot. We've learned to ask him, is this your first thought or your final thought? So we know how to react. He's fun to be around and he brings me along and I have fun too. Oh, people say his style is called extroversion. I just know we're different and I know we're best friends. Sometimes I think I'm an extrovert, but more times I know that I am best as an introvert. I guess everybody has both an introverted and extroverted side, and they pick which one they like to use best. Well, that choice is part of who we are. Knowing I prefer introversion has helped me with all these moves. I recognize that I will be friendless in the beginning, but then I have confidence that I will develop deep friendships as soon as people get to know me. Kids usually begin to feel comfortable around me after a week or two. It takes teachers longer to know I'm smart. Usually I have to get good marks on a few tests before they take notice. I can't change who I am, but it helps to understand my way and the way of others like Peregrine. We've got to get that boy a good nickname. Well, sometimes Peregrine gets exhausted when the teacher just keeps talking. He doesn't like to listen for long periods of time because he wants to do something with the information. I can listen a lot longer than him. Teachers accuse him of not being able to focus, but I think it's just his style at the moment. When we're doing something active and interesting, he has no problem paying attention for a long time. Actually, I wish he would get distracted once in a while because then maybe I could actually beat him at Rocket Man. We study differently too. He likes music, food, friends, and noise when he's doing homework. Excuse me. I prefer quiet and solitude to start work. Then I can join with friends after I feel comfortable with what we are learning. There are a few times when Peregrine needs total quiet. That is when the learning is complicated and requires some deep thinking. Then he says the noises are all a distraction. Most homework does not require that much deep thinking, but some tests do. People think he changes, but that's just one of the quirks of being extroverted. Excuse me. At our age, we can get into trouble for some of the dumbest reasons, but we swear we are right. I think it, but Peregrine says it out loud. That means he seems like he argues back with teachers and parents, and that gets him even more trouble. Oh, I just get mad and huff and puff and go to my room or get away from everyone. I'm just as angry as Peregrine, but I don't get into as much trouble with my mouth. Because we are best friends, we help each other. When I'm tired and frustrated, I want to be alone so I can just want to look out the window on the bus ride home. Peregrine gets that and just talks to others on the bus. He knows I'm not mad at him. I just need some quiet time to get my energy back. I also respect that when Peregrine is exhausted from a school day with a lot of teacher talk and a lot of paper assignments, he wants to do something, so I'm ready to ride bikes, play basketball, or play our video games. He needs me to do things with him, and we have a good time. The hardest part is when we are both tired and need to recharge, but not in the same way. Luckily, that doesn't happen very often. After Peregrine and I got to be friends, the others joined us and we became that T3 squad. We each have our own special superpower, and when we work together on projects, no one can beat us. We are the best. We look out for each other when we make school fun. No one gets bullied when we are near because we're pretty intimidating ourselves when we confront someone who is picking on others. Now we are considered leaders in the school, and other kids ask for our help. I love this group of kids. Please, bosses of mom and dad, leave us alone for the next 5 years. I'd like to graduate with this class. Okay, so now you see how the theme goes, where we have a difference and we use that difference in a story to teach about it, but in a way that introduces the ideas without the theory being the framework, but just the story of the kids. And so we're going to follow Sam and his friends through each of the stories. And so the book would then represent the different kids and their different thoughts. Okay, so we're now going to go to the SN difference, and we'll start with the visual difference. So Maria, take her away, dear.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Before I say more to this painting, I have to admit that when Elizabeth and I were talking about me finding visuals for children, I think in this one, I did not really succeed because I am so much of a process-oriented person that I started out with something like a tree house, and especially for a sensing personality, I found optical illusions are the perfect way to get tricked in a way to learn to mistrust one's senses, and to learn to understand there's something more and different than what I think is obvious and clear. So you see here on this painting, and this big tree, what is very solid on the bottom, and the branches go up and out in a more light way. It should invite people to walk in. I think my main interest here is, since this is the perceiving functions, the sensing and the intuition, that a person gets involved in the painting, to get curious, to look what's in there, what is it, can I read it? So and it's acrylic and canvas, and I also work with different textures. So it's also, some things are sticking out a little bit, and there's some glitter here. What you see here is the this 2 books, and the sensor wants to see what is, and also is try to seek order. So these 2 sentences, or these 2 main characterizations of a sensing way to perceive is that it's just important to get curious, to look what's there. And you see a village in the background that's in East Tyrol in the Alps in Austria, a place where I've been many times, and what is a beautiful little village in the middle of the mountains. And so it's a very realistic way to, in a very realistic way, I painted the background. So this village in the valley really looks like that. And then you have this tree with this strangely distorted moments. And so for the intuitive person, or for the intuitive side, sorry, it's important not to say the things wrong here. It's good to walk in and to climb up and to play around and to sit on this swing and on the clock, and just to move around freely and to have fun and to explore what's there. This is what I came up with, to invite people to just look as careful and as fascinated as possible, and to see where is my own energy, or where is my heart opening up, where do I find joy if I look at this. And I'm sitting in the living room here, and it's behind me on the bank. So I don't know if you see it better. The quality is really not very good, but yeah, I think this is
There's a comment in the chat, Maria, from Josh
okay.
saying that he really likes the 3D type texture that you've
Thank you.
created.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts, Maria, or are you good?
I think I'm good. We have
Okay.
to watch the time.
We can, we for sure will. So the story that goes with this one is called Partners on a Project. And here they are. So as I said before, Peregrine and I became the best of friends. So it's always Sam who leads the stories. We hung out together every night playing video games, shooting basketballs, riding bikes, or walking the neighborhood talking. I never got tired of his company until I met Amanda. Amanda was a girl in our class. I knew who she was, but I never spoke to her. She wasn't the prettiest girl in the class, but she was way more pretty than most. The best part was that she was not stuck up and she had the cutest laugh. Her smile would go from ear to ear, and a person always felt happy when they were with her. Her joy was just contagious, and we met thanks to my teacher. Our class was given an assignment. We were to work in pairs to design a community service project that all the students in the school could join. The best design that was practical and able to be implemented would win bragging rights, but in addition, the team would get an A for the project and be exempt from taking the social studies final as well as the leadership final. Now that was a prize worth having, and I really wanted to win. I hate tests. I never seem to be able to really show what I know with the questions teachers ask. An A for the exam without having to study was worth whatever it took to win. I was going over the people in my mind that I knew, trying to decide who would I ask to be my partner, when the teacher said she had already assigned teams and did so through a random selection method. Oh no, I could get stuck with the lazy dude or the careless gal or the dork who never had any idea because he couldn't care less about school. While I was going through the list of people in my mind, the teacher calls, Amanda and Sam will be a team. All I knew about Amanda then was that she was pretty and she smiled a lot and she seemed like a lot of fun to be with, at least at school. We were given a little time in class to get familiar with each other's style, and then everything about the project would happen outside of school. We started talking, and it didn't take long for me to realize that Amanda and I started projects in very different ways. I love the design phase of projects. Give me a single word and I'll generate at least 50 good ideas. Oh, the ideas aren't complete. They're more like a rough outline, but I know I can fill in the missing pieces. Once my partner commits to my idea, we can get to work. So I am throwing out some of my best inspirations, and Amanda is just staring at me. When she does speak, she asks questions about the first idea I said. Her questions were all practical. Well, how would that work? Can any age do it since the whole school is involved? Will it cost money? How much? And on and on. And I was like, whoa, if you like the idea, we can figure out the details later. And she answered, but I don't know if I like the idea until I know that all of the details are already considered. Coming up with a winning plan was going to take some time. I thought I would impress her with my brilliance and quick thinking, but that way was not going to work. I listened to her questions and realized that together we were rather remarkable. I loved the idea part and she loved the doing part. I was wanting to be innovative and original. She wanted to be practical. I thought in big, bold strokes. She thought in specifics that were organized sequentially. I looked to the future of what could be done, sometimes a bit grandiose, and she wanted to know what was done in the previous years. I really had no interest in what was done before, except I wanted to create a project that was unique and sure to win the prize. Amanda was a good student, so the exemption from the exam was not as important to her. She was more concerned about doing a good job that would help people in the community. The more she talked, the more I was glad she was my partner, and I almost forgot about Peregrine. Amanda and I spent most afternoons together that first week plotting our strategy. For sure, I did not want to have a paper drive, or a pick up the trash campaign, or a plant the flowers project. All were good and doable, but none were unique and exciting. Amanda was really excellent at noticing what was now and in the present. One time, she had me take a walk around the neighborhood to notice what was already present and what might be missing. We started with facts rather than ideas. Now, that was a first for me, but it was an eye-opener. Amanda and I both liked being outdoors, and when we stopped to get something to drink, we realized there were no tables or places to sit outside to drink our drinks. The sidewalks were large and could hold a few small tables outside of restaurants or cafes, but no store did that. Amanda insisted on getting information, so we went to interview some of the restaurant owners to ask why. We learned there was a city ordinance against tables on the sidewalk, but no one knew why. The rule was at least 50 years old. Then we asked the owners for their opinion about adding sidewalk tables, and everyone we spoke to was in favor of the idea. Well, that took us to City Council, where we went through the records to learn why the ordinance was enacted. It turned out that the rule was made to accommodate skateboarders who needed the sidewalk open and free of obstructions. Well, skateboarding is no longer the popular sport it was 50 years ago, so maybe the rule can be rescinded. We needed more than just our idea. We needed to be able to make a reasonable case for the city council to consider. Here, Amanda was the true champion. She thought of every question the council members might ask and researched for answers from the past, while I gave her suggestions for how this change would benefit the town in the future. The most complicated part was figuring out how everyone in school could participate. Amanda took the lead and created a simple survey that community members could take in person or online. Other classes could help gather the results and help analyze the results for our report to the council. They could also help business owners select the best tables and chairs that would not blow in the wind or get stolen easily. We had to think of all kinds of possible issues that would block our project, and Amanda was great. It did not take long for me to look at her with admiration for her steadfast way of approaching a task and getting the job done. I was excited because this project was complicated and innovative and would really make a difference in our town. People would have a place to hang out with each other and get to know each other better. We even added park benches around the city, so that has to help with getting better governance. Well, our project did win the day. We were both thrilled. When the teacher interviewed us about our process and we laughingly explained how we approached the project from such different perspectives, she said our differences were actually described as personality styles called sensing and intuition. Amanda preferred sensing with its practical, information-based approach to working the project, and I preferred intuition with its emphasis on future possibilities and a desire for uniqueness. Who knew? Well, anyway, the project is done. Amanda and I became great friends. I still love her company, and she is part of the T3 squad. She sure is terrific, top-notch, and I like that we can hang out together. So again, just a simple way of introducing differences through stories and then describing it theoretically. So TF, Maria, you ready?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
I'm ready. Okay, so this is my TF painting, and it's all about balancing thinking and feeling function. So when I was seeing that Sue is having a talk on that balancing TF, I thought, wow, I came up with the right painting for it. So the two judging functions I try to bring together in this painting in that way, in painting two magnets. So this is, I call it a TF compass, but it's not a compass like a normal compass that has a needle that always goes north. This is a compass that has two poles, has the feeling to the right, feeling function magnet, and to the left it has a thinking function magnet. And the way I laid it all out, it's a little more complicated, and I'm not sure if children would like to engage in it, but this is yeah, this is another question. Okay. So the star in the middle shows the colors. The one to the right is very one-sided and very imbalanced, since it's almost using just the feeling side. It also has a slight bluish line, but you don't see it because it's basically impossible just to use one judging side. But this is a big example of the one-sided feeling side, and the one to the left that's pointing directly to the thinking function. To the left is just the one-sidedness in the thinking way. And then the other star shapes in the middle, they have different grades and of the orange and the blue. What is, I think, kind of simple to understand, where we have a better mixture of considering the feeling aspect and the thinking aspect in the judgment as well. And in the middle, you have basically it evened out. So in a way, if we would be able to make a decision that is fully balanced, like we have the feeling judgment and the thinking judgment fully balanced, then we cannot really decide. So, and this is not ideal, because then what should we do? But it is, I try to show with this, it's good to bring both together, but in a way that it's still true to you and to yourself and what you think about the issue you're dealing with. And interestingly, if you have complement colors, they would become gray. If you have the same amount of color put together, they have a non, so how can I describe this best? It's, you cannot, it becomes gray. So it's, you can't see the orange color anymore, you can't see the blue color anymore, just see the gray. It does not mean that you do not have both colors, but you have them both equally in an equal amount represented. So this inner white circle, I have small little icons, and I'm very sorry because you don't see any of those. These are the topics a person can deal with. They are very randomly picked. So we have, for example, we have a dove with a, with a twig, we have sports presented, we have games. So it's topics about we judge, and I couldn't paint it that way, but ideally this plate would slide, because it's not intentional that, for example, the dove is closer to the feeling function, to the feeling judgment, than to the thinking judgment. That's not what I wanted to say. This is very randomly picked, but it's about various topics we'll deal with, and always bring in the rational, the thinking side, and always also consider the social impact and the relationship side. This is why I painted this big circle of people holding hands to to bring in this moment of what's the social impact, what is the feeling tone, more the value tone. No, feeling tone is maybe not right. What is the value impact, the social impact my decision has. But in the end, I also added is this little arrow in the middle that is the only thing that's movable. So I really attached this on it. It has two wooden strings, and I connected them like a DNA, showing they are intertwined, and each decision should always consider both judgmental sides. Should always, when we are judging, we should, in a way, always have the other, less preferred function in our mind. And this is movable, so it's created like a working tool. So this is why people should be able to work with it. So it's more complicated. I'm sorry.
Okay. Did you want to talk about any of the images in the inner circle that's white, below the circle of orange people?
So yeah, for example, I can talk about the one with the board game. So thinking of myself when I'm playing board games and I have a strong feeling function, I would not stick to the rules. Rules wouldn't be that important or interesting to me. And so what I had to learn is I also have to stick to rules. I cannot play a board game if I'm ignoring the rules. My youngest son, he loved rules. So he really clearly has a strong thinking function. And for him, the rules are important, and he enjoys explaining rules to other people. So for him, just to think about a person like me who would not take the rules as seriously as him is painful for him. And but on the other hand, I think maybe later in his life also would learn to maybe let a younger child win, even though the rules are on his side. I think this is something.
Right.
There's a question if they are actually symbols in the center.
Yes, it's actually all symbols. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What are they, Maria?
So on the top and on the bottom, you see it's a scale that's fully balanced, and
Okay, yes,
right, and to the left, it's a scale that's very one-sided, and then on the top to the left there is it's like a chess figure. The next one is a light bulb. The next one is water with a drop of water. Then I have music notes. Then there are little parts that you can build something from. Then I have a ball and soccer. Then I have a hand with a piece of a flower or a plant that grows out of the hand. Then I have an art canvas. I have the alphabet. I have also the signs from like deaf or blind. So it's
yes,
yeah,
lovely.
I could go on and on. So it's just I was looking into symbols and trying to find topics one can engage with, and then talk about it. So what would be with this symbol? How would the feeling side take it into consideration, and what would the thinking do with it?
And another question from Jane Kesey. What do you think the age range potential is for these pictures?
Yeah, I think Elizabeth can answer the question.
Well, we talked about When Maria was creating the images, she was just creating the images. She didn't have an audience in mind per se. Whereas when I was writing the stories, I definitely had an audience level in mind. So now we're looking at these images and we're asking, is this appropriate for children or not appropriate for children? Is this more of an adult tool than it is a child's tool? And we felt that we needed to gather some data about that. So we would actually expose them to some children and talk with them about it and see if it triggered the aha that we're looking for. So right now I would say that it's absolutely 100% a good tool for adults, but we aren't sure yet with children. I'm not sure yet with children anyway. So that's where we are with it. Okay.
Good.
So the TF story is about debates, and it's a fun story, but we're not going to listen to that one today. We only have time for one more. So we're going to do a JP story, the good, the bad, and the ugly of baseball with my dad. Okay. And it says, I feel horrible. I need to talk with someone. Amanda and Peregrine are busy. Job is here. We don't know each other quite so well, but he seems like a good guy, especially when everyone says his name wrong. They call him Job with a short O sound rather than Job with a long O sound. He just laughs about it. Oh, I think I would get irritated, but he considers it no big deal. Job says, "What's up?" I hesitate for a moment and then I unload. I'm sure my father hates me. Since he asked, I tell him the whole story. We had a big test in science today. I do not think I did very well, and I want to blame my dad, but he isn't really talking to me. Here's what happened. I like to plan out my time carefully, so I finished all my other homework so I could concentrate on studying for the science test. I needed a lot of quiet to concentrate, but I could get in a good 4 hours of study time before I had to go to bed. At least that is what I planned, and that is what I thought. Instead, I got home, and my dad jumped in front of my face so excited. Look what I got! Tickets to tonight's baseball game. Your favorite team is a potential playoff contender, and we got great seats. Surprise! Oh, he was so happy, and he was right. Normally, if I knew in advance, I would have been thrilled to go to the game. But tonight I had planned to study. The test was in the morning, so I did not have many options. Now, you should also know that my dad works long hours and travels a lot, so we do not really have much time together to do things. He thought this was a great adventure for us and was hurt when I did not react with equal enthusiasm. I could not tell him that I needed to study, but I couldn't get it off my mind. I said, "Thanks, Dad," and I went to the game, but I was not really into it. I kept trying to remember the science pages in my mind, but the content was complicated, and I wasn't sure I was remembering anything correctly. Dad kept talking to me during the game, which only interrupted my thinking. By the fourth inning, he was tired of trying to coach me to join in the excitement of the game, and he just talked to everyone else. When we got home, I went straight to my room and tried to hide the light so I could stay up to study. Mom has a strict bedtime rule, and lights have to be out by 10, so we get the necessary sleep time. It was after 10, but this was an emergency. I had to figure out how to study without getting caught. I guess I studied for about 30 minutes, and then I fell asleep with the books open on my bed. I took the test this morning, but I do not feel good about the results. I think I passed, but I did not do well. So in the end, I did poorly on the test, let my dad down when he was just trying to do something nice for me, and I don't know what I could have done differently if it all happened again tomorrow. I thought Job would be sympathetic and understanding after I poured my heart out, but instead he asked, "Why did you get so uptight?" I needed someone to understand my side, not question me or criticize me. I don't like surprises unless they are planned surprises. You could tell me there will be a surprise on Thursday, so don't plan anything and I would be fine. But don't just surprise me. I always have my time planned. I like getting things done and checked off my list. If this had been a daily quiz, I would not have been as concerned, but this was one of the big grades. Yes, but you said you rarely get to spend time with your dad. Isn't he more important? Well, of course my dad is more important. I wish I could have done everything. I tried. I went to the game. I just didn't have a good time and my dad knew it. Then I guess he thought I did not like being there with him. You know, sometimes we argue with each other these days. And all of a sudden it was about our relationship when it was about my scheduling for studying. So what are you going to do now? Asked Job. Aren't you like me, Job? I asked. Wouldn't you have gotten upset about the change in your plans? Not really, answered Job. I would have been so excited about going to the game with my dad that I might have even been sick the next day if need be and asked to take a makeup exam. Honestly, I never even such alternatives. I was so focused on following my plan and trying to do everything that other possibilities never entered my mind. Now I have to make it up to my dad, but I don't know where to begin. Well, have you ever explained to your dad how you feel about surprises? No, the topic never came up at home. What if he had said that he had these wonderful surprise tickets to a game and he wondered if going to the game would be added to your schedule? Would you have been able to sit down with him to brainstorm ways to study? Maybe you could have studied on the way over in the car or studied during odd innings. There are a million ways to have explored other choices. Mostly, you need to let your dad know that your attitude had nothing to do with him and everything to do with the change in your plans. Can you do that? Then Job added, I think I'm more like your dad. I love changes in routine and doing exciting new things. I throw away any planned schedule without thinking twice. I mostly leave things to do until the last moment. I think about them a lot, so I'm working on the homework or task in my head, but I just don't start producing it until the last moment. I would have gone to bed, gotten some sleep, and then gotten up very early to get a few good hours of study time in when it was daylight. Sometimes I do underestimate how long the work will take, but I'm getting better at that as I get older. But I like the way I am, said Sam. I don't want to change, but sometimes my way just isn't what is needed at the moment. I think I need to go home and see if my dad has some time to throw the ball with me so we can talk. Sometimes I wish I could have fun the way he does. Everyone seems to enjoy being with him. I have fun, but only after all my work is done. Then I can be the life of the party too. And I think I've always been this way. Mom tells stories about when I was in preschool, how we would set the table for breakfast the night before so it would be ready in the morning. I know people are different, but sometimes living with those differences is not easy. Look, I have to go find my dad and fix things. Bye. Again, trying to sometimes get in the story to encompass type differences in real life settings. We have a tantrum story in development. We have team problem solving as the campfire challenge, and there's about 10 of them. But in the end, we have some concluding thoughts. So Maria will share hers, and then I'll share mine there.
So my artwork invites us to look at psychological type pairs as different and as complementing each other. For healthy psychic development, we have to look at them as pairs, not splitting it apart and feeding into dualistic either-or approach. How can they be looked at and brought together? My 4 paintings are playing with the differences and invite us to look at the more and the less preferred familiar part as equally valuable.
And for me, watching children find the joy of their differences and the best way to access their strengths and their stretches is the best. It's just pure fun for me to watch children. And when some of them are challenged and suffering and feeling lost, when they realize they have another whole pool of inner energy they can draw upon, there is some ego strength that develops because they are not feeling so helpless. So our focuses for the visual type was to see the differences. We wanted to help the children, keep them in perspective, and you'll get this. So this is just a kind of summary of what we've been saying. And since we're kind of short on time, we wanted to say, instead of just descriptive differences, we wanted to demonstrate how people can use these and need both of them in order to function well. So we thank you. We've got a few minutes for questions or comments, and we welcome those. And again, you will get a copy of the PDF copy of the slides. Okay. Is there anything in the chat rooms there or anything we need to respond to?
I think we've covered the chat as we've gone. So thank you very much indeed, Elizabeth and Maria. And just to say that a copy of the slides will be on the conference website link beside this session. So you can go back into it again and click on those and have access to them. So that was absolutely great, Elizabeth and Maria. Thank you. Comments, questions, please.
Just want to say thank you, Elizabeth. I just agree with you that it's never too early to start this understanding with children. And one of the things I very frequently get asked is how soon can you tell a child's personality? And it may be unusual, but with my two children, it was certainly by the age of 2 had I known about type. And so I just really value all the work that you've done over the many years, Elizabeth. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sue. I think we can actually see it from day one. And by 6 months, we have some visible data to show that sensors and intuitive approach life differently. But it's also more, it's like we want to start with using type through the story of the art rather than starting with the theory.
Yeah.
So to model another way of beginning to appreciate the balance of differences. Yeah,
I did a presentation for a group of pediatricians at one point in time, and there was somebody who worked with the neonatals, the really prem babies, and he's the extroversion and introversion sometimes in tiny babies. So yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you.
I'll stop the recording.